My background is working with sculpture. Through that, I've started to work more and more with performance and dance. I generally always treat my artwork as research. So I'll kind of have a subject or an area that I'm looking into, and I'll use making as a way to do that research. So whether that be kind of making physical sculptures to kind of understand an idea, or whether that be kind of thinking about how an idea feels in my body and exploring it through movement. I was always a lot more interested in the making process than I ever was in the final product. I didn't have this desire to create this object that was perfect. It was kind of about how I got there, and I really started to focus my attention into this process as a kind of performative act, and then thinking about its relationship to other performative acts, especially dance. When I was a kid, my parents sent me to contemporary Caribbean dance class, and that was their kind of, okay, you can learn about your Caribbean heritage. When I moved to Glasgow, I went to a contemporary dance class, and because my experience of contemporary dance was Caribbean contemporary dance, I kind of thought, what is this? I don't know what this is. It was really unfamiliar to me. And I was kind of seeking something for comfort that felt familiar. And I ended up meeting a choreographer who was running a West African dance and percussion ensemble. It was really nice to see how some of my kind of experiences of this other dance form were present in these new dances that I was learning. Alongside that, I was studying sculpture and getting more into thinking about performance and thinking about movement and thinking about the body. These two things were almost happening parallel to each other. West African dance didn't ever really come into my artwork, and this experimental movement that I was doing in my artwork didn't ever really feed into the West African dance. I started Project X with Melly Brooms and Ria Lewis. We kind of came together because we were thinking about our Caribbean heritage and the ways that we engaged with it when we were young. We all kind of really recognized the importance of engaging with culture through kind of creative means. And I was also really interested in the relationship between different dance forms and different geographies and how they kind of developed with the movement of people. What is dance of the African and Caribbean diaspora? What actually is that? Is that this traditional West African dance? Is that the contemporary Caribbean dance I learned as a child? Or is it more than that? And it is, of course, more than that. It's as detailed and complex as Caribbean and African Caribbean identity is. And I really liked starting to think of it as each person's unique story. With Project X, we kind of really embraced that uniqueness and that non-static definition, and this idea that the definition exists in many voices, and trying to create a platform that's bringing all of the different voices in so that you can start to get this kind of wider understanding. I've always found a way to not make work on my own. And I think it is that thing of genuinely getting such nourishment from being around other people. Collaboration is a way to enrich any project. Everybody brings a unique experience, a unique expertise. So it just makes something feel fuller and richer when there's more voices that are part of something. Especially when you're making work that is about something so huge as diaspora. The idea of Caribbean diaspora or an African Caribbean diaspora is so huge. To have a relationship to somewhere that you are not and how that kind of finds a form in the work that you do, the food that you make, the relationships you have with people, the way that you dance, all of these kinds of things. Movement is something that is kind of passed from body to body, and then once it's kind of entered your body, it's there, and the question is then, what do you do with it next? Who do you pass it or hand it on to next? What extra bits of information do you add to it? What parts of your story get added to the story? What parts of your voice get added to the song? Toni Morrison has a concept called rememory. It's kind of how these things that you didn't necessarily experience haunt space around you in some way. And I really liked that as a way in to think about all of the different ways that the past finds a form within the present. I still am really drawn to these kind of making processes to figure things out. There's almost something kind of like therapeutic about it. It allows you to think with your hands. I think in sound and experiences, so that kind of made sense why I've always been so interested in these physical making processes to understand a kind of concept or an idea that I've been kind of playing with. I think it's a really wonderful thing to not think of an exhibition or a performance or a kind of moment of presentation as the end, it being a kind of moment of pause where you can invite in kind of other thoughts and opinions to the conversation or to the research that you're doing. When I'm researching something that is so connected to my body, to other people's bodies, to the movement of bodies, it feels like that's the most natural way to think about those ideas. Thinking about things that are too complicated for me to understand directly, thinking about things that I can't even put words to, it makes most sense to kind of process them through my body in that way.